Welcome everyone to a trip down Stoner Drive. I am your host Shag Wellbolt, or you can call me Shaggy, like zoinks, and this is a platform to tell people stories about how cannabis has positively or maybe even negatively affected their lives. I don't care if you're a patient, a brand, a distribution, an athlete, a politician. If you have a story to tell, I want to hear it. So hopefully this gives you an educating and entertaining look behind the scenes of the booming cannabis industry. And if you like my videos, please give a like and subscribe to my YouTube. Also go to my website, shagwellensway.com, to get your shaggy swag and rock the clothes that you see in my videos. All right, welcome back to another episode of A Trip Down Stoner Drive. Now, this episode I am so excited for because it has been just a process of the making for months. Unfortunately, timing didn't work out, but now I'm so glad it did. And I'm so excited to introduce my guest, Dr. Mark Goldstein, world-renowned veterinarian and worked at the zoo. If you'd like to introduce yourself as well.
Sure. I'd be glad to. If my mother were introducing me, it would take the next half of the show. As you said, I'm a veterinarian by training. I've had a really amazing life to be actually in clinics for 10 years as a veterinary oncologist and in internal medicine at Angel Memorial Animal Hospital. Some of your viewers around the country and the world may know of it. It's in Boston. And I was there and I interacted with the physicians in human medical facilities. It was really just a stimulating environment where I could practice good medicine. About 10 years into it, I had an opportunity provided to me by a man who was running for President of the United States, Governor Mike Dukakis. When he ran for President of the United States, he and his staff were looking for someone to take over the helm of the zoos in Boston. And basically the governor was putting a lot of infrastructure into the city and really bringing it up to par. And it was, it took me a year to make the decision, Shaggy, because I loved medicine. But as I told my wife one day when we were sitting on a beach, not like here in Southern California, we're talking a beach in New England, it's not the same
Boston.
thing.
Lots of rocks, so cold,
No. But I said to her, it's like somebody put Mount Everest in front of me and said, I dare you. I knew I could come back to my medical career, but to be offered this opportunity where I saw the opportunity to influence basically animals on a larger scale, a public policy about animals, whether they be wildlife, captive wildlife, or domestic or agricultural. So I took the chance, became director of the Boston Zoos, put my clinical hat on the shelf for the time being, not knowing I'd get back to it or not. And, my life took a turn for the best. We did that for a number of years, and then I had the opportunity to come to LA and be the director of the Los Angeles Zoo.
And with Boston, it's not like you were taking on something that was already running smooth and everything. You had to kind of take a ruined project and build it up from ground up. So
we did. We got it accredited. There's a whole process of going through accreditation. It's part of that process that maybe in a different show sometime we can talk about the pros and cons of keeping animals in captivity in a zoo situation, why we do it. I'll leave your listeners and your viewers with the same thought I have in my book, Lions and Tigers and Hamsters, that in a perfect world, I wish we didn't have zoos or aquariums, but we don't live in a perfect world, unfortunately. So it's a little story there.
I think with each zoo, I've heard, there are some bad ones, but there is a lot of research that does get done that is needed to understand these animals as well.
And I wouldn't say that there's bad zoos. I'd say there's bad menageries. To be an accredited zoo or aquarium like that, I say, you do have to meet certain criteria. And I think people are surprised at the commitment that people in zoos have. They do not see themselves as just a place to showcase an animal in front of the public. It's, what can we do to entertain the public? Yes. Educate the public. At the same time, I call it a three-legged stool. Zoos should have three legs to them. One would be education/entertainment. Another's conservation.
Okay.
And the other, education would be, so entertainment, education, and conservation.
Okay.
And if you just have entertainment going on, you're a circus, you're a roadside menagerie.
Yeah.
If you're dealing with things like we did at the LA Zoo, I was blessed with being there the first time we released the condor back into the wild. We brought them back from 26 birds. They're now well over 1,000 birds back in the world.
That is incredible.
So when people say zoos can't do that, they do. And I can list a dozen animals right now. One like the northern rhino, northern white rhino, is effectively extinct. There's 2 females still alive. And there was one male, passed away. But we have a frozen zoo. It was started by a Betsy Dresser, and it was first in New Orleans, and then it moved to Cincinnati, if I got my dates right. And effectively, it's sperm and eggs from almost every endangered species that's in captivity. So that with the northern white rhino, San Diego Zoo now is working with taking the southern white rhino and planting
I actually
eggs
heard about this.
Right.
My friend Caitlin was working at the zoo, and she was telling me about this, and I think that's incredible.
Once they perfect the process, they'll
Yeah.
take one of the more rare, endangered northern white rhino sperm and egg and fertilize them, and then put that into the white rhino as a surrogate. So the baby that's born is 100% northern rhino.
Mm-hmm.
That'll really be the first time we can truly say we've just brought an animal back from extinction.
Now, this kind of leads me into another segment. I've been seeing a lot of articles lately about bringing a mammoth back or trying to recreate a mammoth. Have you seen anything on that, or is there any reason for it? Sometimes it's about like the climate change and stuff. I mean, have you just seen anything on it?
I get a little bit goosey when I hear it. I've heard about it. You know, even myself, there's a place you go and a place you don't go, and I think we need to go very cautiously. Jurassic Park aside.
Exactly.
Let's make sure we don't create something we don't understand. So I know there's some people doing it. I'm not aware of any mainstream credible labs or facilities that are working on something like that.
And that's where I think it's, white rhino. Animals we understand, I'm fine with, but yeah, you got to be careful of that line so we don't hit the Jurassic Worlds or any of this crazy things. I mean, just what is needed. But I did want to go more into your past and your book, Lions, Tigers, and Hamsters. Oh my! Was this your first or only book that you've published so far?
It was my first book. I've written articles.
Yeah.
When I was practicing clinical medicine, there's some articles out there about treating feline leukemia cats and cancer patients. But it's the first book I wrote, and I have to be honest with your viewers. I have high school English teachers that are rolling over in their grave thinking Mark wrote a book.
Oh, probably.
I never saw myself doing it.
Well, I like how I've heard how you got started and it was for your grandchildren.
Exactly.
So you could tell them stories, and it just kind of rolled from there.
Yeah, I'm really blessed. Besides my career, 43-year plus marriage, 2 healthy daughters. One is married and 2 grandchildren, incredible grandchildren. I know I sound like a doting grandfather. Wonderful granddogs. And, I basically left the Humane Society, had some health issues we'll talk about maybe in the second part. I decided, hey, my grandkids are in their single digit, and I'm in my approaching 70. Before I get too old, I'd like them to know who Papa Mark / Dr. Mark was. My professional name, I go by Dr. Mark. Dr. Goldstein's a little too formal for me. And Papa Mark is obviously for them. They also call me Chief No Butt because I don't have one.
I understand that completely.
But I said, I'm going to put down some stories about who I was, so when they're old enough to really understand them. And then, I have a great friend, Marty Becker. He wrote Chicken Soup for the Animal Lover. Mm-hmm. He also is he's the foundation behind a movement called Fear Free, that maybe we can talk about again today or another show. And I sent Marty 6 or 7 of the stories. He was coming to San Diego 3-4 years back, about 5 years now. And he said, Mark, I want to have a drink with you and your wife. We met him down at the Hyatt or something. He was in town for something else. Sat down, within a minute, he said, Mark, we're going to get this published. I said, why? No, you have a great book here.
Absolutely.
I'm a unicorn, if you'll allow me, in my profession, because I have worked in clinical medicine. I've been a zoo director, and I've been a president of the Humane Society before you get into being an author. And for those that may not be in the animal world, they may not realize that those 3 areas in some communities conflict with each other.
Really? Animal
welfare / animal rights people being concerned that zoos shouldn't exist. Why keep animals in captivity? I was a president of the Humane Society. Yeah. I can make a compelling case for both sides. The zoo world is concerned that the animal rights people are going to do demonstrations because there have been a small handful of people who've done really dumb things. When I was at the Los Angeles Zoo, supposedly some well-meaning animal rights people came in and threw ropes into the chimp exhibit to get them all out. That's not in the best interest of the chimps. They could have been injured or killed, actually.
Absolutely.
So, so zoos are worried about that. And then veterinarians think that the local Humane Society is going to take away their bread and butter and their money or something. As I sit here today, Shaggy, first of all, I believe most people want to do the right thing. Past 5 or 6 years has tested me on that, I have to admit. But I still in my heart believe that. And what I found working in clinical medicine, what I found working in the zoo and captive wildlife world, and what I found working in the humane world, they all three have the right to exist. They all contribute to the health and welfare of our community.
Absolutely.
And we should start finding common ground as opposed to looking at what our differences are. Because in reality, all three of those sectors at least have one thing in common.
They care about animals.
Exactly. They have a great regard for animals. Let's build upon that. And I've been able to build bridges with some other good people. The San Diego Zoo and the San Diego Humane Society had an excellent relationship.
And the San Diego Zoo is world renowned. I mean, that's one
much.
of the greatest zoos that I've heard of.
San Diego Zoological Society and the New York Zoological Society certainly are the leaders of the pack, and then there's another dozen or so. LA would be one of them. But to finish on that unicorn, so I've seen all three of those, and I can tell stories from all three of those worlds and bring them together. And then when I have the honor of maybe presenting at some conference, I can speak to it even better, because energy spent on arguing is useless energy.
Oh, absolutely.
Good debate where people are willing to listen and listen to the other side, maybe correct their course, that's wonderful. But to just scream at each other, you have enough time, especially when you get to my age and you've got some of the issues I'm dealing with. I was so lucky to be able to be in all of those three worlds and see the benefit of them, and now I feel giving back as I speak to that issue. I go around the country talking about it.
Which I love, and I wanted to dive into a few of the stories from your book. I mean, everybody should go. I believe it's on Amazon, of course, and there's other places you could buy it, so I definitely recommend buying it, but we will dive into a few of the stories. The first one, obviously, is the most dangerous or most exhilarating, I feel like, is with Donya, the elephant.
My elephant.
Yeah, so working with an elephant or so, I saw it mentioning the island and then alligator, so was that in the wild?
It was in a safari park, and when the story you're talking about, it's the first chapter in my book. I was young, I was in my early 20s, working, and I was told to go on an island that had 8 elephants on it. The matriarch in this case was Danya. She was the most dominant, the oldest, and most experienced. There was one very young male, and otherwise the rest were all youngsters or female. And I was supposed to get a feed pail. Well, she was used to people coming onto the island, greeting her. She would actually tell people apart by smelling their feet. Elephants will pick different areas. In her case, it was their feet. Okay. And then I knew to take her ear and let her walk, so she was ahead of me a little bit. I was in a hurry. I was young. I was precocious. I patted her on the trunk, said, I'm just here to get a feed pail, and walked away. Wrong. Yeah. You broke the rules, buddy. Get off my island.
Didn't do procedure.
The way she gets people off the island is her 12,000 pounds, comes up behind you, puts your trunk between her legs, and goes... And there I went, about 30 feet, 20 feet in the air. Got pretty busted up, broke an arm at the point that I hit the ground, but she wasn't done. I was still on the island, so we got to get rid of this pest. When people see elephants, for instance, do headstands in circuses, which I'm not a proponent of, they don't belong there, frankly. No. But when they're doing that, that's a natural instinct. The only predators elephants really have, you talk about Asia, it's tigers. And if it's Africa, it's lions. And then, of course, there's the Homo sapiens, us. People. The way they get rid of the nuisance cats, if one jumps on a young elephant or an immature elephant's back, or an adult makes that mistake, they pick them up, throw them to the ground, put their head down, and do a headstand. That's what you're seeing. It's a natural instinct. She ran over to me on the island because I wasn't off yet. She positioned me with her feet. In fact, I know so because for the next couple of days in the hospital, everybody, I swear, including the person who cleaned the floors, came and looked at my back because I had an elephant print on my back. And what's fun is that Asian elephants have 5 toes and Africans have 3. And you could tell it was an Asian elephant that kicked me because there were 5 toes. But I just lost my train of thought from the treatments I'm on for these health problems. But basically, I was on the island, so I was in a hurry. She picked me up, positioned me to put her head down, and training went off without me thinking. In fact, I had one of those near-death experiences. Mrs. Bevan was my kindergarten teacher, and to this day, I had all these images of her as this was going on. Yeah. Why? Don't know. Maybe it was a safe harbor. Yeah. I don't know. But I saw her head coming down, and instinctively I knew the only way I was going to get her attention was hit her in the eye. I swung, hit her in the eye enough for her to pick her head off, and I rolled into a canal of water. And yes, there were alligators, but they go the other way. If there were crocodiles, we wouldn't be here laughing.
Yeah, no.
So I first wrote my stories as life lessons learned as a veterinarian. What life lessons did I learn that day? One, follow the rules.
Yeah.
You break the rules, you can get hurt.
Absolutely.
Two, and this surprises people because I had people then ask me, well, Mark, now you're a physician, right? You're done with this veterinary stuff. No, just the opposite. I understood what she did. She was not a bad elephant. Because people had even asked, did they put her down? It was her home.
Yeah. You were the intruder.
I was the intruder, exactly.
Yeah.
So I learned follow the rules. Even more so than yesterday, I want to be a veterinarian because I understand these animals. We're often as veterinarians, people will say, wow, your job's hard. Animals can't talk. Yes, they can.
Yeah.
Just have to learn their language. It might not be what's coming out of their mouth. It might be the way their hair is, their tail is, the posture they take, the teeth showing, their eyes.
I mean, you learn from owning dogs. Like, I know their personalities are completely different, but I know how to communicate with them and work with them. And I feel everybody says, like, I know my dog better because I've worked with her and picked up on things. Like, she's communicated with me in those ways. So.
You're connected.
Yeah.
But you have to, it's not any different than with other people. If you don't listen, you'll never hear the language.
Yeah.
If you see by it, if you've got an attitude of that's the dog, I'm the person, they're going to do what I want, I don't care what they think, you'll never learn the language. You'll also not have a wonderful relationship.
Yeah.
So that was, that's the first exciting story in the book, and that's, thank heavens I'm here to talk about it and laugh about it. At the
Absolutely.
time, it wasn't always that funny.
No, and I think that just teaches a lot of people, especially the viewers and people nowadays, have respect for wild animals. Because even if they are domesticated, even for years, they've been around people and stuff, there's still, you have the procedure to go through and everything. And, I mean, you see it all the time with wildlife reservations, things like that. People just pull out and they think they can get up close with their cameras to bears, to moose, to these wild animals. And I think we need to have a respect for them.
You know what's interesting, and I use this example when I talk, especially to younger adults. If a hunter comes home to the cabin and a bear's broken in and his kids are in the back bedroom and he knows the bear's endangering his kids, he's going to take his gun and shoot him.
Yeah.
And the headline the next day is going to read,
Bear.
Heroic hunter takes care of aggressive bear. And all these positive things about the hunter and negative things about the bear. Turn it around. Hunter's out in the woods, comes across a cave, goes in, there's 2 bear cubs there. He picks one up, starts to carry it out, and here comes Mom through the front of the cave and mauls him. What's the headline read the next day?
Oh, crazy bears.
Crazy,
insane.
nasty bear. Right? He's exhibiting the exact same maternal, paternal behavior of protecting his young, yet we have this feeling of calling the hunter brave and the bears dangerous.
Yeah.
There's a problem there.
And I think even with the story earlier where you're saying the activists throwing the ropes for the chimps, like understanding like chimps, even though they're close to us, there still can be very dangerous creatures as well. But you have to have the respect, not being fearful of them, but having the respect and understanding that they can still cause damage to you, and you need to be respectful of their environment too.
Right. They're strong. They have certain instincts that will take over. And your point is exactly on target. We have to respect them. To respect them, we have to know them. And that brings me to some of the reason that I can justify zoos. Baba Dione was a famous Senegalese environmentalist. And his phrase was, and many people have heard this today now, I hope, that we only protect what we love, we only love what we understand, and we only understand what we're taught. We're not born with a natural instinct to protect elephants.
No.
But in today's world, by teaching you about them, by showing you one so you smell it, you see it has emotions, you see its eyes, you come in contact with it. Suddenly you have a better understanding. If you have a better understanding, you want to protect it. If you want to protect it, because you fall in love with it. Then suddenly when someone says, hey, can you stop using ivory because we're destroying the population of animals? The zoo has served a purpose by connecting them to that animal and allowing them and having them want to change their behavior to save this beautiful animal.
Absolutely. And I think that's how you also get into people studying specific animals. I think zoos probably inspire that passion. Like, I feel like being at a zoo, I mean, I fell in love with wolves because of zoos. Be able to see how they interact, seeing how they walk, things like that. I mean, I think it allows you to get the appreciation for these animals.
Very much so. But it has to be a well-run zoo.
Absolutely.
I mean, the first determining factor is this in the best interest of that its animals' welfare. And we can judge that. Animals that, You see the big cat, the lion, the tiger pacing back and forth. That's not a good exhibit. Something's wrong. That's an aberrant behavior. In other words, if you see behaviors that you don't see in the wild, you have to ask yourself, have we created that through stress? So they have to be able to be showing just natural behaviors. If given the chance, they should be allowed to reproduce and capable of it. Because one of the things that suffers when any living creature is stressed is their ability to reproduce goes away.
Yeah.
Because it requires a lot of energy. It requires good health to have successful fertilization and then ultimate birth. So they should be able to reproduce. They should not be overweight, and they should live as longer than they do in the wild. Those are just some general aspects.
Yeah.
And if you can't meet those, you have to, what's wrong with the way we're caring for the animal? So we really are very conscious of that, which I think some of the public is led to believe that maybe zoos don't think that way, but they really do.
Yeah, especially locally. So going into a few more of the stories, either from your book or not in it, what is probably the most unique or endangered animal you've come across, or one that people just don't think about?
Oh, I was expecting something different. I was going to talk about the goldfish's tumor removal.
I do want to get into that one later.
Yeah, because it changes. Unique. Well, I mean, the animal I know that is most threatened that I've had distant contact with, only because some friends working with them, a Hawaiian crow, they're down to like 12 birds or something in the wild. Now, nobody would think about that.
Yeah.
And when people hear about this, and I know there's politics that comes to play here, why do we have to stop this major project for that spotted salamander or that, spotted owl or whatever? There I talk about the rivet, and this is not my original thought. It's been, used as an analogy. You're on an airplane, and, it's got rivets holding the wing on.
Yeah.
And you see a guy come out and pull one rivet out. Well, there's thousands of them on the wing. Don't care. Pulls out a second, third, fourth. At what point do you wonder, I think I'm going to take a different plane?
Yeah.
Why I'm saying is we're not always sure what rivet's going to make it unstable, and we're never sure which animal may go extinct in this whole chain. It might be some weird cockroach that you never see that plays a part in getting rid of some of the waste product in your environment, which keeps you from getting sick. So there's all these, we're basically entwined with each other.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's why some esoteric little animal that someone would think, why is it so important that they're stopping a project? Because until we know what the impact of that will be, we better be careful. Honeybees is one of the best examples.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up. The smallest little thing, but
Right.
Provides so much in our not pollution.
Oh, an ecosystem. No,
Yeah,
an ecosystem.
yeah.
Right. And people are, well, it's a bee. It stings me. I don't give a darn. I don't like honey anyway. Yeah. Well, you might just like your life, though, or at least your kids' lives or your grandchildren's lives, because if you wipe all the bees out, we may not be able to exist at some point, because they play a very critical role in pollinating our plants, in pollinating agriculture.
Scooby, kiddo. I apologize.
Well, we just made that realistic.
See? Yeah, right?
Hey, kiddo.
Yeah,
Come here, you.
And
There's your
is,
language. You just told us something's upset.
Oh, it's us saying, hey, you're okay.
We're
So
fine.
she just comes for
Hello,
attention.
kid.
We have Scooby and Riley as our co-guests, so occasionally you will hear them. But they've been really good so far, which I enjoy.
I gotta say, Shaggy, this is the best studio I've been in a long time to do interviews in with these
Thank
guys.
you. And that's why I can't wait. Eventually I will have my Mystery Machine travel bus, and they're going to be a part of all that. So I can take them to Colorado, I can take them to Utah, I can take them to every state with me. And that's kind of pushed my dream is to getting a travel studio, is that I've had to work so much moving out to California, 2 to 3 jobs at a time. And sometimes I have to leave them for a couple hours, which I feel bad for, but 6 to 8 hours while I'm at work. And so I want to be able to bring them everywhere with me and be able to show them as much as I can and get them out of this place. So,
I hope people listening to this know that you do a really good job of bringing some good information to the community.
thank you.
And I hope you're able to achieve that. I have no doubt you will achieve that dream. It's just a matter of when.
I appreciate it. It's just telling great stories like yours. And as you mentioned earlier, the goldfish story, which is, it's the most emotional, but I think it shows the
truest of how the smallest animal can be the most impact on somebody's life. So.
This conversation between Shag Wellen and Dr. Mark Goldstein will continue in part 2. Make sure to come back and see more.
What up, everybody? So I hope you've been enjoying my interview and my videos. If you've been watching them, then you know the true stars is Riley and Scooby-Doo. If you want to support support the stars of the show, I have created GoFundMe, link down below. This will pay for their food, their vet bills, their insurance, any travel costs, because we are trying to hit the road and come see you soon. And also, every month, 20% of the GoFundMe